it seems like everything's working. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, so let's try this one more again. I am Matt Wright, and I am here to talk about the rumors of Fallout 76. If I start saying Vault 76, you can just kick me, because quite frankly, I'm probably going to do it anyway. So, first off, I will tell you what we have to legitimately speak of concerning Fallout, not Vault, Fallout 76. The official Bethesda talk includes that this game is not a remake or a remaster of any previous game. It is itself its own full-fledged game. And it will have survival elements. And that's pretty much all we have. Either that or I have not found it, which is probably also true. So, on to some of the information we have from the trailer. Everybody likes this trailer. It's all over the place. But rather than you look it up, why don't I just tell you about it? So, first of all, this game is a prequel, not only to 4 or one specific game, it is a prequel to all games. Yes, you heard me, even a prequel to Fallout 1, starting days before some very serious events in the Fallout canon, which you may or may not recognize. First of all, the legendary Fallout faction known as the Brotherhood of Steel started up one day when some remnants of the pre-war military decided, screw this, we're getting the heck out of here, and abandoned a military base. According to this, players who start the game will be starting mere days before this happens, which means, well, in theory at least, you would not be seeing that faction in the game. Of course, there's also the other faction tied to this event, the Master and his group of super mutants. The Master, for those of you that don't know, is a guy who, after the bombs fell and the war started, he went and found the military base that the Brotherhood of Steel had vacated, took it over, and got himself contaminated with some forced evolutionary virus, FEV for short. And this is where the super mutants came from, because the Master himself was lucky enough to get the good version of it, which made you bigger, faster, and stronger.
The bad version of it gives you extra appendages. I don't know, I can see a good side to that.
My brother-in-law commenting in the background about extra appendages. Actually, there was a long-standing rumor for many years in the Fallout universe that if you mutated heavily enough, you would grow a third arm.
I will be glad for a third nipple.
Personally, I think a third arm would be quite interesting. And it would help you have more guns, because of course you need more guns.
There should be a special weapon for the third arm mutation called a trigun. You know, it'll be 3 triggers. Instead of like a double-barrel shotgun, it'll be 3 triggers.
So, from then on, the Master resolved to mutate the entire human race, or what's left of it at this point, cough cough hack hack wheeze, and turn it into super mutants, as he believed that they were the next evolution in humanity. Now, you youngsters out there, myself included, who didn't play the first few Fallout games will not know.
The TARDIS.
Well, yes, the TARDIS was in there.
Yes, it was, and it was awesome. I still can't find that sucker, dude.
It's a really difficult random encounter.
I know. First time I heard it, I'm like, what the crap? It's the TARDIS. Come back, Doctor Who. Take me with you.
Yes, the TARDIS is officially canon in Fallout 1.
It's an Easter egg.
But, more importantly, the super mutants in that game were the main antagonist. They were the big, bad, sweeping evil that was going to eliminate life as we know it, and they were going around and kidnapping people so they could dunk them in FEV and do whatever it is they do to these things.
That's the same game where if you go in the desert long enough, you find all those birds and snake birds and snake humans and all kind of weird crap, right?
I don't think so.
What am I thinking?
I do not know.
Now, probably that. Whatever that is, we have to find that. Yeah, I've read that Redemption.
I don't think Red Dead Redemption has that. But it does have an appearance by Bigfoot.
Really?
Yeah,
What's up?
one of them does, I think. Anyhow,
FEB.
so the thing is, after you take down the Master in Fallout 1, the super mutants are still there, but they're stupid and they lack organization. They're too aggressive by themselves to be able to band together. And some specialized units roam the wasteland for years and years afterwards, but they're not a cohesive army. This, to me... Yes, I knew that door was going to explode, that's why I opened it and backed up. This, to me, signifies that the super mutants are going to be bigger, they're going to be smarter, they're going to have more power than we've ever actually seen them in the series. Of course, if we see them at all.
If they're adding more multiplayer than second to the new Fallout they're coming out with, I wonder if you're going to be able to play as the super, like, if it's going to be faction-based.
That is something I was going to bring up. A lot of people have speculated that this is going to be a multiplayer game, but of course, we don't have any official confirmation, but we do have official snark. And I just died.
Hey, I am not that snarky.
No, I mean people who are officially work for Bethesda have been snarky about it. We do have official snark that disapproves of this, but we won't know until we hear more about it.
Do we have snipes? No snipes?
I don't believe so.
No one's going to get that joke with me.
Especially since a lot of them can't hear you.
Oh, alright then.
So, anyway, like I was saying, a lot of people officially are saying that that's probably not going to happen, but who can say? And if it is in fact that you are a multiplayer in this wasteland, oh hi viewer.
Oh, cover the base thing. They're probably just going to do the base thing instead of...
I have my own theories about base building. So, anyway, I'm sorry, it's difficult for me to organize my thoughts. Anybody who knows me knows this, but back to the super mutants. They're gonna probably, if they're there, be bigger, they're gonna be badder. There's probably not going to be any Brotherhood of Steel, unless, of course, they're a fledgling faction and just starting out. We have rumors that say there are going to be 6 overall factions, some of them major, some of them minor. And of course, since this is going to be a multiplayer game, you're probably probably going to end up being able to join them or support them in some way, shape, or form. I personally would love the idea of showing up and going to the Master's military base and saying, hey, juice me up. Of course, this goes back to the whole, well, if you can play as a super mutant, why can't you play as a ghoul? And that would be interesting, too. Unfortunately, we have no indication of major MMORPG-ness. But I, for one, would like that idea because, well, we've all been human already. I'm afraid the only ones that have tails are Deathclaws. And the tail is their weakest spot. Let me regather my thoughts for a moment. Okay, so Vault 76 is going to be a control vault. Much like the vault in Fallout 1, there's not going to be any major issues going on. As we know, Vault Tech has a lot of experiments in their vaults, and they do a lot of creepy, messed up stuff, like dunking people randomly in FEV and seeing what comes out, or trapping 1,000 men with a single woman. Well, hello, Mr. Evan Slap. Salp. I think it's Salp because there's an A before the L. Let's see. Where was I? I knew I should have written out a script for this. I would like to see us be able to pick from a race or somehow able to mutate ourselves. It's been suggested throughout Fallout canon that microdoses of FEV and or radiation turn you into a ghoul. Evan informs me that I was right the second time. So it is Salp. Okay, good to know. Yeah, back to actually trying to keep my thoughts in order because I'm a scatterbrained brawn guy. Okay, so a lot of people are saying that this is going to be based off the Fallout 4 engine. They're going to be recycling a lot of things, and that makes sense. Yeah. Evan asks, do you think it will be multiplayer? And part of me is like, yes, I would like that, and part of me is like, I hope to friggin' high heck not. See, I like the rewind that, go back. Okay, I like the base building, I really do. If you had seen the first attempt at this stream, you would have seen me actually doing that. And I do like the occasional multiplayer game, because I like building empires and seeing things grow and watching numbers tick over. But unfortunately, as per most people know, a lot of multiplayer games are ruled by jerks, and everything's rigged and everyone's a butthole. I have to remind myself not to cuss. But anyway, personally, I would be okay with it being multiplayer. I'm going to go into that more later. I really should have wrote a script.
They have a co-op. That way, you go multiplayer, you got a co-op and you bases with each other. That way.
Co-op would be handy, especially knowing that some people have really gamed the system when it comes to Fallout. Personally, I would like the MMORPG system if we got to be different races. Perhaps this would be one of the few times we explore human races. That sounded horrible. But, like, you know, there's a big rivalry between Chinese and Americans, and we've got problems with Canada, and so on and so forth in the game. Perhaps we'll get to play as a Chinese person and see what goes on from there. In the first Fallout game, or at least one of the Fallout games, if you made your character look Chinese, you did have some negative attributes ascribed to you, whether or not it was true or not. Well, English robots are a thing. Okay, next on my list, it is said to take place in Virginia, but we don't have any official confirmation on that. A lot of secondary sources report that it will take place over a highway, which is logical because apparently there are a lot of highways in Virginia. I wouldn't know, I haven't traveled out of SC that much. Yeah, a lot of people are pointing to the theme song of the trailer being a hint to that, because, you know, it's got country music in it. And it's talking about Virginia. My brother-in-law's commenting on things in the background, so if it seems like I'm talking to somebody who's not there, I kind of am.
Hey, if I start the microwave, will that mess you up?
Probably not. Evan says, I am from VA and there are a lot of highways, question mark.
Wait, you said question mark?
I don't know what you mean by that, Evan. Are you trying to confirm? He said apparently it is a confirmation, and he believes it would be Route 81.
Oh, really? So he actually recognizes where they got the map from when they make the map for the trailer?
It goes down the west, it basically goes down the western United States.
How do you recognize the map that they used?
They haven't released a map.
So when they were driving, did you recognize the actual scenery?
They didn't drive anywhere.
Sweet.
Well, that's good to know. Of course, this brings up, you know, links to all the other Fallout games because it's a prequel, and because Virginia is actually not that far from DC, and of course Washington, DC was the setting for Fallout 3. I believe I have my numbers correct, but if I don't, please don't hate me.
Yeah, DC was 3.
And a lot of people really like Fallout 3. Like, seriously, even to this day and age, swear by Fallout 3 above anything else. So, maybe.
Except for that book.
Let's see, what else was I going to do? Oh, back on the topic of, Evan mentions, it would be neat to see hints of the Capitol. And, yeah, it would. I would like that, especially because there is, like, a lot of legendary monsters and things that you see only in the Capitol Wastes and nowhere else. As well as some very famous individual non-player characters. I guess I'm going to say that rather than use an acronym, because everybody gets mad at me for using the wrong acronym.
I only got mad at you once.
Actually, it wasn't you. Let's see. My idea is, if it's going to be multiplayer and it's going to be PvP, it might be a smaller type of PvP. There are a lot of people harping on details in the trailer, saying that it's going to be focused on 4, maybe 5 people. And they might even be specific classes or specific characters, and they interact in that manner, which I'm not completely opposed to. Over there. No. But okay. Also, for me, I would think, based on the trailer, it's got a display case for trophies in it, and it's like, they have some pretty weird trophies. Like, there's one for eating mystery meat, and there's one apparently having to do with a toilet. So that makes me think that we would be competing from the vault, like whose vault has the best this and the most that. And whatever tiny little obscure details they can manage from that, like have the ultimate toilet scrubber, as in click 500,000 times to clean your toilets within the vault. Now that to me would be more reasonable competition, especially since, like I've said, so many people have gamed the crap out of Fallout and its systems. I don't think direct PvP fighting would be fair. Pick up the darn traffic cone.
I still think you should do like base fighting, pick your bases, and then fight with the bases.
I would. Base fighting is more my cup of tea, to be frank. Like building a vault and then fighting and defending from there.
Or what you call it, Command and Conquer.
Having it more like Command and Conquer might help too. Like actually building defined buildings in your little menus and whatnot. I'd like that, but I don't really think that's how it would work, because a lot of people are a lot more bloodthirsty than they were back then. But for me, I'm okay with some PvP as long as they don't let everybody just do the things they usually do in multiplayer PvP games, because, well, I think everybody's tired of that scene by now. Let's see. Now, unfortunately, Evan seems to have left, so we won't get any more information about Virginia directly. But Virginia itself is quite a diverse place, but it's actually a really small state. Well, compared in landmass to some others, I should say. And looking at topographical maps, which I haven't looked at many, they do seem to be rather widely divided by, like, highways and byways and all sorts of other things. So I'm guessing we're not going to really have problems with scarcity of resources, and they're probably not going to be too many differences in biomes, but I wouldn't be surprised if they included the mountains, like Aren't Virginia mountains a thing? I'm not sure. I haven't traveled out of SC too well to know these things. I'm sorry. Let's see. Overall, there will be 6 factions as, well, supposedly 6 factions. And I died again. I've got to stop running into that building like that. The overall 6 factions. Of course, we may or may not see the Master. We may or may not see the Brotherhood of Steel. But we would certainly, at this point in time, I think, see the Enclave. And personally, I really like the Enclave. I just do, because according to the story, they're the ones that are the remnants of the American military after the war. And personally, I think that's a much bigger and much more imposing threat. But they were wiped off the map in Fallout 3. So, again, I believe it was 3 anyway. We don't know, but maybe. Of course, this is way before the Minutemen, way before the Railroad, way before the Institute. Well, before the Institute was made public, at least. Technically, it formed after the war. So, there's a possibility the Institute may be there. I'm not really informed on whatever more factions there may or may not be. Well, therein in itself is a topic. My brother-in-law mentioning the Raiders. The thing is, a lot of people that survived the initial bombing became ghouls, and we know this from lore. And the ones that were snatched out of the vault became super mutants. But all of the Raiders that have been alive all this time supposedly came out of whatever first vaults opened, or whatever survivors were left after the war. So perhaps these will actually be Raider factions, like the Fiends and the Pit Vipers, or whatever. Tunnel Snakes. I don't know the names of the individual gangs, okay? I just sat there and shot them like everybody else. But individual gangs have been featured in a number of different Fallout games, and it's possible that they themselves will be entirely human factions vying for control of the wasteland. A lot of people are also speculating with new mutated creatures to deal with as enemies. Basically, somebody saw a spider and was like, oh, giant mutated spiders. You know, we haven't seen mutated spiders. We've got mutated flies, we've got mutated mosquitoes, dragonflies. Other sorts of things like that, but you know, we'll see that when we see that. Of course, there's supposed to be a big press release when they have their E3 booth Sunday, actually. I believe it's Sunday, anyhow. So, there's all that. It's logical to assume there's going to be base building, but it turns out that base building itself was actually quite controversial, especially the way they did things. So, I'm gonna put a big 50-50 on that. And like I said, a lot of people have been able to game the system over the years, and personally, if there's no multiplayer, I'm okay with that. If there's limited multiplayer, that would probably be best. But, you know, full out, total, turning it into a Rust or Arc clone probably won't get too far with that one. A lot of people are also saying that Bethesda will no longer support mods because there's been a huge uptick in the adult modding community. So that's pretty up in the air, but it depends on what system it's on, because with things like the Xbox, you can't stop people from modding it. And if it's got to do with PlayStation, they allowed mods, but didn't really. They did have adult mods. I really should have had a script for this. They did have adult mods, and they're still on the market, and they're still very popular, but they're not the main focus of anything. The Creation Club, which is one of the newest mod type things that they've been messing with, a lot of people really aren't a fan of it, and again, a lot of people really are a fan of it. So I'm gonna put a 50-50 on that for now. Like, I would not be surprised if it didn't have mods in the beginning and they later adopted mods as they figured out how to control it or use it to an effectiveness. They've done that before with some games. Super mutants and ghouls as playable races, or if they appear, period. Apparently, there's some big debate on whether super mutants will be in it at all. But it's a staple of the series, so they'd be disappointing a lot of people if they didn't.
Yeah, because there are a lot of those people.
Yeah, mostly. I believe that's everything I've gone over, and right now I am just confused as heck. I've lost my place, and I've already died twice. So I'm going to call it here, and hopefully somebody can make sense of my incoherent babble.